everyone. This is the Soul Reconstruction Project podcast. And today I have with me Dayshell Parker, and she is a speaker, guide, author. And we're going to talk about Black ancestry, healing, burnout, rest, the cycles of just the patterns and our family dynamics, and then coming to a circle, talking about healing, transformation with her and her yoga experience, her experience with yoga and just the history of that. Hi.
Hi, Janelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I've been love talking to you. We have so much in common, and I can't wait for people to get to know you and for us to have a whole series, like to delve into some of these things. Right now, this is just an introduction to you and everything that you do so people can find you.
I am excited too, like just to be able to take time to dive into all of these topics and not be rushed or hurried because we're trying to get it in like 20 or 30 minutes, but to really create space for this kind of healing is so powerful. So I am so stoked, I am psyched, I am all the things. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I am glad that we got an opportunity to connect as well.
Yes, I can't wait for our next project. So tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I am a keynote speaker, a guide, and an author. I am a social worker turned executive for over 25 years. And in 2022, I opened my own business so that I can actually start coaching one-on-one on my own, separate from what I was doing when I was working for someone else all of those years. So
Mhm.
that journey of establishing my own business and stepping out into my own lane has really been an amazing, 4 years of unfolding and shedding and taking on new this and shifting identities, and all kinds of things have been happening in that 4 year period. But if I'm honest, it's no different than the shedding and the shifting and the transforming that has happened my entire life and in the lifetimes before this one,
Mhm.
because that's the soul's journey. We're here to grow and evolve and become something new, something better than what we were before.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit more, like how'd you start out, that kid, and like what's your life now? Like, and what was that burnout? What was that like experience that you had that made you have this type of thought process now? Because can you say that you were always in this mindset?
That is a very interesting question. And funny enough, after all the work that I've done exploring not just this life, but past lives and my own spiritual journey, the short answer to that is yes. I have always had this mindset. I've been a healer prior to now and in
Hmm.
previous lifetimes, and there's connections through things that make so much sense now that didn't always make sense. But I
Yeah.
think if I fast forward to this lifetime and really look at my shaping, really, this was me before I had language to understand what it was. I come from a lineage of survivors, people who had to perform and lie and hide and wear masks, right? Just to survive, just to
Yeah.
live, right? Not because you thought it was something that was cute to do or, you acquired it. You had to do this in order to live. And
Yes.
so that stuff is passed down. Right, so I inherited it before I had language, before I was even formed. But then when I was growing up, we were the Psy family. So the father figure in the family had a whole wife and family and lived in the suburb of our city. So lying and hiding and secrecy and all that, that was just kitchen table talk. That was just the way we operated. That just was what it was. And so my mom comes from a history of trauma, and when she became an adult, this was, listen, she lied, she manipulated, she did all these things in order to be resourceful and survive. And so
Mhm.
this is what I was born into. This is how I was raised. And so learning how to be the calm in the midst of the chaos was something that I was doing before I had language for it, before I
Yeah.
understood what I was doing. It was
Yeah.
just happening? Right. And so I didn't understand it. I always knew that there was something different than what was going on around me and what I was experiencing internally. There was this disconnect, but I couldn't quite name it. And when I started to develop language and started to call things out and name things, then I started getting pinched. Right? Because it's like, why you telling this truth? Ain't nobody asked you that. Right? Like, so I would have that kind of experience. And so there was this kind of dance between who am I? This is what I think, but when I am honest about who I am, it's not really received well in the world that I'm living in. So you learn to press it down, right? And learn how to put on a mask and you start to perform so that you can belong and achieve and be okay in your world, ignoring kind of that inner call, that inner voice around this truth that's emerging. And I don't know why I know it or where it's coming from, but I just know that it's there and it's incongruent with my external world. And so I learned naturally how to
Hmm.
navigate and be calm in the midst of chaos, knowing there's an inner truth, but I have to be very careful and measured about how I let that inner truth out in order to belong and achieve in the world.
One thing I want to point out is that like you knew it was there. You had no idea where it was coming from. You didn't know, like, but you knew it was there. And I think that's where a lot of people stop because there's so much pushback from everybody else. There's so much even uncomfortableness within yourself to actually be like, okay, well, yeah, what do I want? Am I following? Because you start to realize, wait, I am one, not am only am I doing the same exact freaking things, things are not even turning out well for me. So
Yep.
I gotta do something different. I know this machine that I've been working in is wrong. And
Hmm.
then you feel like you don't even have a support system. So you feel very alone when people are like, nope, nobody told you, like, what you talking back? And you're a grown woman now. You're a grown woman with grown
Yep.
thoughts and grown
Yep.
feels and grown thoughts. So it kind of starts to become a battle with relationships and stuff. And that's when you do the most introspection is when you are alone. So I'm
Yep.
curious on that next experience when you were on that phase, was it more of a lonely journey?
I would say at the end of the day, yes, the spiritual journey is a solo one. And I think that's why people get stuck. It's very scary. And there's also a part of us as humans that want to belong. We want community. We want to be included. And so if you honor what's happening with you as an individual on your in your spiritual journey and it doesn't match what's happening around you, there's an internal struggle. And so that's why we stop. That's why we pause. So with that, was it a lonely journey? Yeah, they're all lonely journeys. The spiritual journey is a solo one, and that's the difference for me between religion, standardized religion, and spirituality. Spirituality is a solo journey. Even if I'm around someone who has similar beliefs around the metaphysical and Christ consciousness versus Christ worship and things of that nature, we're still going to be in different places on our path in that spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Whereas religion and standardized religion is more about belonging, it's about the community, it's about the group. If you look at any religion, you're going to see the potlucks and you're going to see the gathering and you're going to see the regular communal types of things happening. And then there's an expectation for a collective experience that you experience together. And it's not a dig about one versus the other. It's just that that journey is a communal one, whereas the spiritual one is a solo one. So yes, it's been very lonely. And
Hmm.
whenever I'm true or honor what's happening internally, there's usually not a lot of people around that understand exactly where you are and what you need and how
Hmm.
to hold space for you.
Yeah. And what we were just talking about, we didn't even know. We're doing all of this stuff, and we're like, well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. That's why I seek the, professional help, professional
Hmm.
that know about that kind of just conversation. And then to just have someone to talk to that can answer back in a way that's helpful to you rather than, more of a gossiping or venting in a unhealthy way, all those other ways that we go about it with people that aren't even anywhere near the path that you are on. You're at least seeking
Hmm.
the help, and these people are, far gone. Like, so it's like even that thinking about like I can't talk to anyone about it. Like I'm glad that now people are, seeking therapy and counseling, and it's becoming more of a trend to just help yourself that it's needed, and then that this even this climate is making you have to drive that way. But I
Mhm.
think another thing I want to touch on that you were saying was how religion and spirituality is so distinct now that people are like putting you in a corner. And like I think of the four corners game in a classroom, but it's like you close your eyes and then you wake up and someone's in four, and that's the spirituality, and you're like, what, you're not Christian, or you're not this, or if
Mhm.
you are a Christian, and then you sway a little away from it because they're starting to like not totally be in your beliefs. There's like people are looked down so much, and
Mhm.
that's why the most important thing is not caring what other people think, because it will, like you said, keep you paused in your life in that spiritual path.
This is so incredibly true. My own spiritual journey has been an interesting one. And when I came to a place where I realized that I had to ultimately separate from organized religion, and not in a place of, I hate you, I'm angry with you, but in a place of, that just doesn't align with me. It makes me feel restricted rather than expansive, right? That is when I actually became free and everything became very different, and it opened me up to so much more in ways that I just didn't understand and didn't know. But clarity came in floods once I was
Mhm.
able to accept that truth and embrace that individual spiritual journey, regardless to what anyone said. Now it was scary, like that's not what I'm saying. It wasn't easy and it was scary, and yes, things shifted and all those kinds of things happened. But I will say, prior prior to me having that full-blown awakening and making that shift, there was always this internal voice, this disconnect with, this makes sense, but this doesn't. And so then when you ask the question, it's like, no, 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 don't ask that question. You just have to have faith. Or if you don't believe it, I can't help your faith. Or no, that's hoodoo voodoo. You don't say stuff like that. You don't do, right? So when you opened up and you would talk about or ask the questions, you would be challenged in such a way that it made you feel like you were wrong for having these questions. So there's been a dance the entire time, which meant, well, maybe it's a different church home, or I'm not going to church anymore. I don't go to church, but I still believe in God, or like all these different kinds of things. Or I go to church, but this is my horoscope, and this just like all these other things you would intertwine, just trying to find your way and trying to figure it out. While still trying to embrace that communal religious, you maybe you change religions, went from non-denominational to this. I've been apostolic over the years. I've gone to non-denomination churches. I've been to Baptist churches. Like it's been a number of different things that I've done over the years trying to honor that voice, where that voice was never truly honored until I said no to everything and yes to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask you about like strength. Like how do you stay grounded? How did you f really be like, okay, I am me right now. Like I feel that I because that free part, where did that free part come from? Where did that search, how did you do that search? What did it look like? Did it look like journaling? Did it look like meditation, or did it look like yoga?
Man, yes and yes and yes and then some more, and
Mhm.
then yes and yes and then some more. I think what happened with me was after decades, right, of externally reaching and achieving, right, multiple degrees, right, a career where I'm excelling and climbing the ladder, right, achieving the house, achieving the car, like traveling and like doing all of these things, checking off all the boxes, which say these are the markers of success,
Yeah.
but still feeling like something's not right.
A lot of
Something
people
is
feel that.
off. It just doesn't feel the way I thought it would. It's not satisfying in the way that I thought it was going to be satisfying.
Or I was told that it was going to feel.
Right, the American dream is supposed to be just that, the dream, right? And like what you,
Mhm.
the dream is a lie? Why didn't you tell me that? Right?
Yeah.
And then when people tell you the dream was a lie, you don't quite understand
Yeah, what you
what
mean by
that
that?
means when people tell you the dream is a lie. But at the end of the day, it's a
Oh, he
big
just
goodbye.
mad. Like he just mad because
Right, like you don't get it because you didn't get right. Like it's all kinds of things that happens, but this is a whole matrix that we in. Like let's get absolutely real with it. It's a matrix, and so following that internal dialogue, that internal whisper that's been there the entire time, it comes a point where that whisper is so persistent, right? And so there, you have to stop ignoring it. And then when you couple that with lifing, right? And stuff just keeps happening.
I was
One
just thinking.
thing after another, right? And for me, it was family drama, tragedy, unexpected death. Like, just all of these things just kept happening, one thing after another. And it was just like, I give up. I give up. I fully surrender. Whatever I think I know, I don't know. And all I'm going to do is listen to this whisper and take small steps following this whisper. I don't care what nobody else say. I don't care what nobody else do. I'm just going to start honoring this internal voice by any means necessary, no matter what, and we just gonna go with that. And that required some dark days, that required tears, that required journaling. That I actually joined a new church and got so deep in the church, and not necessarily deep in the church in terms of my hand is up and I'm doing all the things to be seen, but I started to study. I read the Bible cover to cover. I
Hmm.
went to catechism. Like, I started to do all these things. And the more I learned, the more disenfranchised I got, the more questions I had, the more I
Hmm.
was like, well, that don't make sense. Well, why can't history, science, and math and spirituality go together? I don't understand where dinosaurs fit in the Adam and Eve story. This don't make sense to me. And like, rather than pushing this down, like, no, these are my questions. This is real. I'm doing my own research. I'm not basing it on what somebody is packaging and handing to me. I'm putting this all together for myself. I'm asking the questions and I'm not shying away from it. And if my environment don't align with where I'm going, then so be it. I'm gonna let it go. And so it's not a
Hmm.
moment, it's not a checkbox, it's not a thing that happens. There's a series of things that takes place and brings you to a place where that old identity of belonging and achieving no longer fits. What got you here is not gonna get you there. And you have a choice that you have to make. And that choice for me was choosing to listen to my whisper by any means necessary, no matter what, no matter who I lost, no matter what shifted, no matter who didn't like it. And believe me, people didn't like it. Like, things shifted, right? But I had to be honest. I'd rather go take this yoga retreat in the mountains by myself. Yes, this black girl who's starting to read oracle cards and like do this, and I want to go in the mountains and be by myself. No, I don't want to go on a girls trip with 100 people. Like, that sounds exhausting to me, and I no longer am going to pretend that I like it. Like, I'm annoyed having to go on trips and then coming home and being so exhausted that I need another vacation after my vacation. No, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to go to the party. I don't want to go to the event. Like, nope, I don't want to do that. That stuff. I'm drinking and I'm smoking and I'm doing all of these things just to be able to do it. If I have to do all of that to do it, then I must not really want to do it. So, how about you be honest with yourself and only do the things that actually light you up and expand you, and stop reaching for belonging? And so
Yep.
that's a process. It's a process, but it's a decision that you make, and then you have to trust the process and let it happen, let it flow. And that is what shifted everything to me. For me, that is what expanded me, that is what opened me up to things, that is what gave me a clarity that I have now. No, I don't have certainty. No, every day is not perfect. No, I don't know what everything is and how everything is going to work out. No, certainty is an illusion. I've never had it. We just chase it thinking that security and certainty is where it's at, but it's always a lie. Things can be upended by any person or thing. It can happen even if you own a home. Eminent domain can come in and take it. Like, it's just so many things that actually threaten our security, and we chase it over and over again. Stop chasing certainty. Stop chasing security or the illusion thereof. And I started walking in clarity, and that felt liberating. That's where the freedom comes from. It's not because everything is perfect. The freedom comes from the clarity and the alignment with my spirit. That's where it comes from. And that's
I
something
was
I
think
never had.
I was thinking that process that you're talking about, a lot of people don't have like a word or a phrase or an even idea of what that really looks like. And that's why I feel like I was able to come up with, and I feel like that came from above, but I was able to come up with the RIP framework where like alignment is like this old identity with the R and the I with the recognition and identifying, which you were talking about the first like 15 minutes was like, I didn't even know what I didn't know. And then once I knew it, once I recognized what it was, then I had to identify and actually be like, okay, well, I want some truth. I want some
Hmm.
alignment. I want some happiness. I want something more. There's something more than this. And then that second part is the P and the P, which is the purging, getting rid of stuff that does not serve you, and the peace. And this sounds like you're coming towards that end, that peace in the program.
Hmm.
Like I am at alignment. I don't want to do, I want to be in the mountains. I wanted to move there, and that I was stopped by just a COVID, a pandemic disease, just a pandemic disease, but I was stopped. I had a whole life planned out and stopped. Like you said, your security can be gone in a second. And those are the types of like tests and I guess tribulations. I don't know, that kind of
Hmm.
I feel like leads you to that I'm not even feeling right and my world is not right at all. Like
Hmm.
it's not what I dreamed. And the American dream is a real thing. It's just been manufactured into something else. Your dream is here. And people
Hmm.
should be living out their dream inside. And I think a big thing that we haven't totally discussed is like that inner child and how I actually want to
Hmm.
talk to you a little bit about that. Is like, where do you feel like your inner child fits into that piece of finding yourself?
That's so interesting. I think the inner child, it's a lot of variations and I think ways that I think about it. But for me, I think it's acknowledging the difference between your physical self and your spiritual self, right? And so the inner child, sometimes one way of thinking about it is the baby in you that just wants to be seen and validated and heard and understood and hugged and loved, right? And so it maybe acts out in certain ways and struggles to do certain things or struggles to attain certain things or can be disruptive in certain environments and things when it's afraid and when it's scared and things of that nature. Another way of looking at the same thing is that your inner child is aligned to that whisper that I was talking about. It is that part of you that knows everything is okay. It's the part of you that is comfortable and easy and no, security is not external, right, but internal in terms of alignment. And so there's different ways to look at it in terms of what that inner child represents. And so for me, I think it's about the physical self and the spiritual self. But I think moreover, what I'm finding is that my inner child is that part of me that longs for security and is very scared right now. As I live this part of my life where I'm aligned with spirit and I'm taking risks and I'm willing to be free despite the fact that it's not what I know. It's not where I'm going to find all of the belonging. It's not where the certainty of biweekly checks and benefits live. So that inner child is afraid and it screams things like, you know, you crazy, you know you shouldn't do this, you know you should not be a business owner, you need to just get a job, girl, like what are you doing, you need to have let somebody pay you and just like let them hand you the script and you just follow the script and you collect the check, like what is wrong with you, like why are you doing these things?
Sounds like a
So
monologue.
that, right, like it's a very critical voice that holds you back, holds me back, if you will. And so for a very long time I would fight with that voice. It would just go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, you right, you right. Like that's right. I ain't quitting. I ain't quitting. We just gonna stay here. We gonna tough it out. We gonna white knuckle it. Just keep your teeth together, girl, and just don't punch nobody. As long as you don't punch nobody, you fine. You can be miserable, right? But just don't punch nobody, and it'll be okay, right? And there's other times like, no, you wrong, man. Like something is off. Like, why are you being this way? You're holding me back in a way that feels restrictive. And I know this is not right. And then there's some, I mean, then you bargaining, right? And you negotiating and you doing the back and forth. And so you would just kind of do that. I would do that over and over again. Where I am now is that I've really learned to love my inner child and respect and embrace my inner child. Now I pick my inner child up and I hold her in my arms and I say, I love you and you are okay. And it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. I understand that you only know what the past is. You have no idea what my soul knows, right? So my soul knows the expansive future and all the possibilities. You're not privy to that. So you're afraid, and that's okay. I appreciate you for getting me here. I appreciate the survival in you, the resilience. Like, you have held me down, sis. Like, I love you. But it's okay for you to relax and go to sleep. And I'm going to rock you and love you back to sleep because this is a shadow part of me that is not going to get me where I'm going. But I still love you and you are still a part of me. It is not about digging you out,
Hmm.
talking bad about you, discarding you, or putting you somewhere else. No, you are a part of me and you belong here. You just don't get to drive anymore. So this is a shadow part of me that I acknowledge, but rather than battling with, I talk nice to. And I understand. It's no judgment. I understand who you are and where you come from and why you are the way you are. And I'm going to lovingly lay you down and put you in the back seat while the soul drives.
Hmm.
And so that's my representation of the inner child and all the kind of faces of the inner child because I think the inner child can be seen as a very loving like voice and part of you that just wants to be a child and just wants to play and just wants to explore and things of that nature, right? It could also be seen as this like really bad part that keeps you down and keeps you right. At the end of the day, it has all of those kinds of faces.
Hmm.
But it represents a part of me that doesn't need to drive. My soul is the part that needs to drive. My soul, my spirit, that's the part that knows and is in direct contact with God, whatever you call him, Jesus, the universe, the quantum field, Allah, like whatever you want to call them, like that's fine with me. But the divine, my soul is the part of me that is in direct connection with the divine. And that's the part I'm trusting. That's the part that's driving. That's the one that's in the front seat all the time. And so there's these backseat passengers, the inner child, the ego, the physical self, the mind, the unconscious, the like it's all kind of terms depending on what body of knowledge you coming from or what perspective you're using. But at the end of the day, it's the soul that's in charge.
Hmm.
Everybody else
One
take a back seat.
One thing I was thinking when you were essentially self-soothing and having a monologue of a self-soothing type
Mhm.
of situation, I think about how we teach our kids to kind of do that at an early age, and then we sort of lose it and we'll lose sight of and try to find it in other external places. We don't know how to self-soothe ourselves anymore, so we find external things like addictions to people and things and places and pills and whatever, and that's one thing that you learn when you do that introspection. And I'm curious if you combine that with your yoga experience and just the physical, mind and body type part. Like where does yoga and those kind of things really help you ground yourself? I had to do that as I'm currently in, a battle with my ex and dealing with, that's my big like core earthquake right now. And I've always feel like I'm having to ground myself, but it becomes so much easier when you become one with yourself. It's not just a breathing technique anymore. Like it is something that you understand and actually helps your body come to a place where you can move on in a positive way to help you and empower you and use your super alchemize your trauma. Like this is all that we've been talking
Yes.
about is alchemizing these things that are gonna come, whether we like it or not. We can do all we can, but harm and negative energy is gonna come.
You gotta transmute that stuff, girl. Yes, alchemize, transmute it. And it's funny you say that. That's up here on my banner, aligning mind, body, and soul. Well, I actually say soul, mind, and body in that
Hmm.
order because you lead with the soul, right? Then you
Yeah.
bring the mind align, and then the body follows. And so I'm very intentional about how I say it because I've had to learn that shift, right? It's not the mind that's leading, that's actually your enemy. We've been taught that, and the mind will play all kinds of tricks on you, right? You start with the soul, then you train the mind, and the body will follow. However, yoga, oh my God. I so love yoga. Like, I cannot even begin to explain how huge a role yoga has played in my life. And what's funny is, I've been practicing for decades at this point now, right? I'm in my 40s at this point, looking happily at 50 coming around. I have been practicing yoga for decades, and it started because I had this love-hate relationship with exercise. And I always felt like, why do I have to beat my body up? Like, it just never made sense to me why I had to like do these things that hurt
Hmm.
in order to feel good. So it was more of that whisper, and I've reconciled that over the years, and I've come to a great place. And I do body groove now in yoga, which is a whole different approach to exercise, and I just love it. But that's why I originally started yoga when I was like 19, 20 years old. And it was basically about, this is easy, this is soft, this feels good, this feels right in a way that now I can't contort my body into all of these like positions and things of that nature, but even trying, like just taking a moment and taking a breath and trying to do these things, I didn't know this could feel this good. Definitely wasn't taught by nobody in my family or nobody in my circle. Wasn't nobody doing that. And so it was another thing that I did privately, right? Because it did not align with my environment, but I found such joy in it. So I would be in my bedroom doing headstands on my wall and things of that nature, but privately nonetheless. Over the years, it got to the point where I'd taken tons of classes. I've been in yoga at work. I've been asked to be a yoga instructor before. And it's like, well, I am not learning another thing. I'm not going to nobody else's school. I'm not doing it. Right. I would do videos at home, like did yoga in all kinds of places. And it got to a point where yoga classes was just not enough. Like I wanted to know more. Like, why is this pose doing this? What exact muscle? Like I feel it in my quadricep, but is that where I'm supposed to feel it? Should it be somewhere else? What is this pose? Why is this pose named that? And what is these Sanskrit names? Where did that come from? How do these people know? Right? Like it just like my questions started to be like it was distracting from my practice because I
Hmm.
wanted more. So that led me into actually pursuing yoga instructor certification, not because I wanted to instruct others, but because I wanted to learn more. I needed to deepen my practice in a way that just following videos or like trying to do my own series, I couldn't figure out what pose to do next. Like I was just doing the same, like it just, so I wanted to deepen my practice in a way that I couldn't on my own or using other instructors. And then that opened up a whole new world, learning the history of it. And then that's when I got exposed to Kemetic yoga and learning that, oh, this was something that was actually in Africa before it was in India. Why ain't nobody told us that? What? What happened? Okay, so this is what these shapes on the walls of the pyramid is? What in the right? So now the yoga history and then learning about these origin stories. So it ain't just happening. Wait a minute, other cultures got their own origin story. So now I want to learn about all the origin stories from all these other cultures, not just the one that was packaged and handed to me, right? But I want to learn, and then I want to take my own DNA and I want to go study the origin stories of where I come from and what is the parts of my DNA. So it just opened up so much more for me, and I became fascinated in a way that, like, it just lit me up. I'm a lifelong learner, and I enjoy it tremendously. And I learned that yoga means connection. It's we're not even practicing yoga. We're practicing asanas. Asanas are the physical postures. So what? You mean in the Western world we've been learned something in the wrong way? Oh my God. Not again. Right? So some more like stuff I need to unlearn. So all this time it's like, do you know yoga is not an exercise? And I'm telling it to people, they think yoga is an exercise. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, I just learned this. Yoga means connection. It's about the connection between the mind and the body and the soul and spirit. That's what the word yoga means. It's union. Asanas are the physical postures. So you're actually practicing asanas, not yoga. People like, oh, shut up. You go again with this. So my environment is not leveling me up, right? It's not right, and more of me on my own solo journey. But yoga became another way for me to learn more. It became a way for me to deepen my spirituality. And then yes, my practices also got deeper. And now that I'm at the end of it, I'm excited to be able to instruct people that I coach and speak and just like incorporate yoga and breath work into everything that I'm doing. So while it started out as something that I was doing to avoid exercise,
Mhm.
then at some point I needed to deepen my practice and I just wanted to get better at doing what I thought was yoga. It has now evolved into a way to expand the breadth and depth of my work in a way that I don't think I would have been able to without it. So now I can add chakra work, energy work, and mind and body work and breath work and all of that to when I'm coaching, any kind of transformation guiding that I'm doing, whether I'm speaking, I have breath work and poses can be now a part of that. And when I'm coaching, when you're in an experience with me and you're having a coaching session, you're going to be doing some kind of yoga pose. You're going to be doing some kind of breath work. You're going to experience this kind of energetic and emotional state shift while you're with me because now I'm a black girl that don't go to church and read oracle cards and do yoga. And like I have created my own healing framework that incorporates
Mhm.
all of these things. And because I'm also a trained social worker and highly credentialed, I got a little bit of therapy in there, a little bit of coaching in there, a little bit of yoga in there, a little bit of oracle witness in there. I can bring in my intuitive stuff. This is what I'm hearing. This is what the guys is telling me. So I put all of that together and create my own framework. And this is how we gonna heal. This is how we gonna move forward. No more of that standard colonialized capitalistic approach to how we supposed to heal that's packaged in a way that don't actually help but keep us institutionalized. This is a whole new approach to not just my life, but a approach that can help heal others, particularly us who are struggling in these survival cycles and patterns that we don't understand and we think are personality traits and we're killing ourselves
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. I listening to you talk about that last part, like it's kind of like that middle circle is you and figuring out that recognition and that RIP framework in you, but the big picture is um listening to you talk about, well, this led me here. This is why I thought I was doing this for, and then I was doing it for this, and then and I feel like that led me in ways of why I'm doing everything. And my little multimedia dimensional thing that I'm doing is all these little problems, trials, great experience, all led me to have all of these multi-talented things that so many people don't do anything with like their talents.
Hmm.
Their
Hmm.
multiple talents. They're like, well, I gotta get a job. And don't even get me started on all the people that are losing jobs just the last 2, 3 years. So this is just like a trending thing that everyone is going through now. What do I do? Do I go back to what I was gonna do? Do I go back to something significantly less and not support my family? Or do I do something that feels calling to me from an inside? And then a lot of people do not agree with it. And it would be a lot harder for me if I had like this whole family to support. I'm a single mom right now, and that was a big change for me to have to push to be like, is this a smart idea to go this way? And after you get a few, I get mostly the responses I got were from older, like grandparents, older people with this, like, I wish that I had done this at this age because of this, this, and this. So even having those people along that way that do kind of be like, yeah, I do. I kind of at that same space, or I've come to realize the bigger picture. And yeah, I agree. Like, that is something you should do. Let me help you with that. Let me give you some advice. And that's when you start to feel that like community follow your pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that. I think those are definitely moments. I like what you said. Those are moments that light the way, and serendipity is real. I definitely don't think there's any coincidences. We are in a constant conversation with
Like
the divine, God, and the world. I believe I do have some fundamental beliefs. After leaving religion, it took me a while to really find my way. I don't think there was ever anybody that could really hold all of me, and so I kind of had to figure it out and put it together on my own, which is the solo spiritual journey. But there are some fundamental beliefs that I follow, and the fact that everything is interconnected and we're always in this ongoing dialogue with the divine is a part of it. So even when your existing environment can't hold you anymore because you leveling up, there are going to be signs and symbols along the way that come from a bird, a tree, a voice, an elder. Somebody is going to say something along the way that is going to let you know that you're being held, you're on the right path, right? Keep going. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean it's going to be tribulation and trial free because that's not what life is about. Life is about suffering and evolving. And at the end of the day, that is how humans learn. That's how we grow through pain. And so, painful experiences and experience that are troubling, challenging in any kind of way, they're there to show you something about yourself. And either you learn the lesson or you repeat the lesson, but you're going to keep repeating it until you learn it. And then on the flip side, right, there's always voices and signs to show you that you're on the right path or not. But there's a constant conversation going on all the time. And so serendipity is real. Being able to find those signs and pay attention to them and hold on to them and hold them dearly, like that's important. It's important for you to understand the constant conversation that you are having with God on a regular basis.
Yeah, I was pointing at this because this is the tattoo I got about ten years ago that is serendipity, and I always have felt that way. And there was something that you're saying that just had this imagery in my head of a puzzle piece and a puzzle and just putting all those puzzle pieces together. And then when you're saying if things are not aligning, it just I saw a picture of my daughter trying to figure out which way keep turning the piece to make it fit. Like, do you not see the edge right there? Like, hello, like this is the edge piece. Like, mix them up, put them together. Like, kind of how like that's what it feels like. It's like
Mhm,
this. There's the box with the puzzle all figured out, and I feel like that's soul, your higher power, whatever. They
mhm,
know. They already have
mhm,
everything written out for us, and we over here trying to put mind, body, and spirit all together and put all these puzzle pieces together, and it feels like I'm not really a puzzle person, but I feel like it's something that's really important for people. What is the word? Not engineering type of thing, but just
mhm,
that thinking
mhm,
process, the
mhm,
trial and error type of deal, and looking at the whole picture and being able to organize stuff together. Like there's a really big resemblance to that and like putting your pieces of your life together, who you are, that sole purpose, really.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's I mean, not everybody believes, right, that their soul has a purpose and that they're here for a reason and all those things. And then there's people who believe that, right, we have multiple lifetimes. And then even within that there's people who believe, no, you only get two or three lifetimes. And then there's people who's like, oh no, there's an infinite number of lifetimes, right? And then like so at the end of the day, regardless of what you believe, there is some expansion and truth and liberation and freedom that comes from really focusing on what your soul's purpose is,
Yeah.
right? And trying to adhere and live up to that, right? And stop trying to control like the world and everybody else's purpose and what they here for. And that's not definitely not always easy to understand, but when you think about it in terms of there's just people around you and maybe somebody's just really mean or abrasive or abusive or whatever it may be. But rather than trying to change that person, right? Because that's part of what we do. We want everybody to be this certain kind of way. And if everybody could just, and like, no, you need to change, you need to fix that, right? But what if their purpose was to actually make that person more compassionate? So that means they're supposed to be abrasive, abusive, or whatever it was, but that was a part of their purpose in this lifetime on this
Mm.
journey. So while you over here trying to track them from their soul's purpose, they actually living out what they supposed to do. If you focus on what you're supposed to do, right? Like, and so it's a very interesting way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, I find tremendous solace and focusing on my purpose and living that out. That's where the liberation comes from. That's where the alignment comes from. That's where the peace comes from. When I believe and know genuinely in my heart that the things that I'm doing is a part of why I was here, that's tremendous value. Tremendous value for me.
That's all she wrote. That's all I heard when you said that. That's all she wrote. So, okay, this is not the end. Obviously, I think I mentioned in the beginning we plan on having like 5 more episodes to combine a bunch of things together. So, I just want people to know like where to find you right now and to expect more. And just thank you so much for being here. And I've loved having these
Absolutely.
conversations with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute honor. I am a transformation guide. So I'm a speaker, guide, and author, and you can find me at leveragingtruth.com. That is my website. And whether you want to contact me directly, whether you just want to learn more information about me, whether you want to see my book, the memoir that I published last year, and get more information about, wait, what was she talking about? Her family did what? Whatever it is you want to do, visit my website at leveragingtruth.com. And I'm also on all the socials. So come find me, come holler at me. And wherever you are in your journey, I will meet you there.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on the next episode. And thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.